Qwickly Attendance is a tool in Blackboard, and we've created this course just to demonstrate this. If you click on Course Tools and scroll down, it's alphabetically under Qwickly Attendance, and this is the screen you get the very first time you enter the attendance module from within a classroom. It requires a one-time setup, which I will take you through in just a second. I'm going to get out of this for a moment because I want to, this is a pretty great tip that the folks at Qwickly had mentioned. If you are planning to use this attendance tool every day or every class to take attendance, it would be nice to have a faster way to get to it than to have to go down into the control panel, expand the tools menu, and click on Qwickly Attendance. And one way to do that is to create a tool link right up here in your course navigation menu. So I'm going to take you through that real quick and show you a little tip. So if you hit the plus up here and click on Tool Link, I'm going to call it Attendance. And for type, I'm going to scroll down and select Qwickly Attendance. Now here's a neat little trick. If I leave it deselected so that it is unavailable to users, and the users being the students in the class, that means it will show up on the menu, and I, as the instructor, will have access to it quickly on a single click, which is great. If, in fact, you would like to give access to your attendance records in Qwickly to your students, you can check this box. And what happens when a student clicks on the attendance button is they see it in a student view, so it only shows them their attendance. And I don't have a way to show you this, but I did demonstrate it. I didn't demonstrate it. I tested it myself. When a student clicks on it, they basically see a list of all the dates you've recorded attendance in Qwickly and how you marked them, absent, present, late, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. I don't know why I'm being blocked here. Okay, I must have created one already. Okay, so here's the button that I created, and of course, just like in any Blackboard course, you can move it anytime you like. So if I go ahead and click on that, you'll see it'll take me to Qwickly Attendance. Now let's look at the setup, the one-time setup in the course. I'm going to go ahead and click Begin Setup. Now I'm not going to go through every option on this screen, but I will tell you that anything you set here initially, you can change at any time by clicking on Settings up here, up at the top. So the first thing I want to talk about is the default style. List is the default, and that's the one I happen to prefer. And that just means when you click on attendance to go into the attendance screen, it gives a list of each student in alphabetical order and the options to mark them present, late, whatever. One by one does just as the name would imply. It gives the name of the first student, and then there's an arrow once you mark their attendance to click on that, and you'd go one by one. Accessibility mode refers to accessibility on behalf of the instructor. The key feature of this allows you to use keyboard commands to access the functionality of the attendance module. And this is particularly important if you're using various types of accessibility software where you would map keyboard commands to certain other maneuvers. Check-in, I'm not going to go through today, but what the check-in feature allows you to set up a system whereby students basically take their own attendance. You know, similar to a classroom where you might have index cards with their name and they would pop them up there. So there are certain different features where they can check in on their own. And you can set up, if you use check-in, you can set up a pin, which is later on in this screen. I'm not going to cover that in this session. View preferences, I happen to like leaving. I don't currently use any of these, but they're all check boxes, so you can turn them on and off. And this just means that while you're taking attendance, if you have this checked, it'll show how many absences they currently have. Show unavailable and disabled students in records. So if you had someone in your course and they're no longer in the course in Blackboard because they dropped it or you dropped them or something, by default it doesn't show up on that screen unless you check this box. And then if you're using grading for attendance, this rounds grades to the nearest whole number. And then oldest and newest first. So I'm going to just leave those at the default settings. This next center for Grade Center integration is if you'd like the attendance module to create a column in your Grade Center for the course and keep track of attendance through a grading system. If you don't want that, you can click No Grade Center column. It'll just give you the attendance. And then if you use attendance as some component of your grade. What a lot of people tend to do is combine attendance and class participation, and they'll just manually create a column in the Grade Center in Blackboard and just enter it on their own. If you do want to use it, you can click on, there's two different options. One is the total points option. This here is the default column name that it creates in your Grade Center attendance, and of course you can change that to anything you want. And by default it puts points for 100. So the way it works with whatever number of points you put in there, and I'll use 100 as the example, is every time you take attendance, it aggregates the total number of attendances taken excuse me, into 100. So the first time you take attendance, everyone that's there has 100 average. After you've taken attendance 5 times, it aggregates the value of each attendance to 20 points apiece. Fairly straightforward. The other way you can do it is by doing per session, and then you can put a number of points per session. So let's say you make it 2. So that means every time you take attendance and someone is there, they get 2 points for it, whichever way makes you happy. I'm just going to, I'll put total points and 100 just so that we can reference it and see what it looks like. It also gives you the option to create a Grade Center column for absences. I've not been able to figure out a situation where this makes sense for me, so I'm not going to discuss it. I mentioned this earlier. If you use the check-in method, which we're not going to cover, to either require a PIN or no PIN and to have a timer involved in it, that's kind of a security feature to help make sure it's the actual student that's checking in. This is a feature that is I think, terrific. An absence email. So what this does is if you set it to yes, and I'm going to go ahead and do that, this will generate an email to the student, to every student you mark absent, and send them an email as is indicated in this box. So the way the default is set up is every time you mark someone absent, it's going to send an email that says your instructor has marked you absent for. It's going to fill in the date and then say in your course and put in the course number. Now you notice how date and course are in these braces with a date. Those are just variables that you can plug in. You can customize this message to say whatever you want. And if you point, I'm going to point to the question mark up here, and I can't move it, otherwise that little black box will go away. You can see all of the different predefined variables. So let's say, for example, your attendance policy states that you're allowed to have a total of 5 absences before you're dropped from the course or before you can get a passing grade. You'll notice that first variable over there is the word absences in those braces. So you might make a statement in this email that's saying you have a total of, and then you could put that variable for absences, out of 5. Please be more careful, or something to that effect. So it's got a couple of nice nuances. Now what the Qwickly folks have told me in their research of people who've used this is it's actually helped improve retention and attendance, in particular for courses, because by generating an email and the student seeing an email that they have been marked absent, it makes it very clear to the student that you are paying attention, that you are taking attendance. The attendance statuses. Now your school, for those of you from Quinsigamond, this may look different from you. The default at Qwickly, I think, was present, absent, and tardy, or something to that effect. You can customize by using add status over here. And you as the instructor, unless you're, that's the one thing I should also mention to you folks at Qwickly, some of these features might not be available to you on your school depending on how they've administratively set up Qwickly. So they may have made it so that you can't change these. So what we've done here at MassBay is we've added these 4 options. Anytime an instructor takes attendance here, they're going to have the option of marking the student present, absent, late, or left early. And then, of course, you can change those. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save Settings, and that's going to save the settings for this course. You have that notification here, and then return to attendance. Okay, so this is what the screen looks like once you're ready to take attendance. And I'm just going to kind of go out here for a second. So now you've done your setup, you're in your course, and you're ready to take attendance. You just simply click on attendance here, and this gives you your attendance. On the settings screen, you'll remember there were options for viewing, and I selected full list, which was the default. So you see that it's just a list of students and their attendance. You could, on the fly, go to any one of the other options by simply clicking on the tab up here. The other thing to notice here is by default, when you go into this screen, it's assuming you want to take attendance in real time. So you'll see it's checked off at real time. So once you take the attendance here and hit submit attendance, it timestamps it for the current time. If you, for some reason, didn't take attendance, or you had a sign-in sheet or what have you, and you wanted to record the attendance for a different time or date in that moment, you can click the custom button and then modify the time and date right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for the 9th. And in this first example, I'm going to cover something that has come up by a couple of colleagues here, and it comes up quite often. The case where you might teach a group of students more than once in the same day. An example might be a lab-based course. You might have a lecture, say, at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then later on in the day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you have the same group of students in a lab. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. So let's say for October 9th at 9 a.m., you had the lecture portion. a.m. Here we go. And let's just say that John's student was late for that and everybody else was present. Oh, the other thing too is you'll notice that there are these comment boxes here, and you can click on those and type a quick comment that is only there for you. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit submit attendance. Okay, and you'll see up here, attendance has been taken, it's recorded. It comes back to this screen, you know, and you're ready to take attendance again if you want, or just go off and do whatever you're going to do. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit custom, and now we're going to go back to, I did say the 9th, that was last time, right? My memory is really bad. And I'm going to go to 1 p.m. So that I can record the attendance for the lab section. And for the lab section, I'm just going to assume everybody was present. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit attendance. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on attendance record. So you'll see here, here's the first instance on October 9th. You notice I marked John late, and this indicates that I had published a comment on it. And again, it's just for you. Now, the confusing part that some people had is, okay, I kind of figured out that I can do it at different times, but how do I distinguish one from the other? Well, one thing is if I click on this header, this October 9th, it tells me that this was taken at 9 a.m. You can also change the session title. So I'm going to go ahead and click in there and just put LEC for lecture and save details. And then for this one, you see it shows it was 1 p.m. And if you want, you can go ahead and put lab and save details. And now you have a very clear picture of which session was which. Here's another situation. Let's say that you did the attendance in the lab and Zelda was there for attendance, but she had to leave early. So you can go ahead and modify this record by clicking on it. This brings up Zelda's for that time and place, and you can go ahead and click left early and save the record, and it will mark it that way. You'll notice that I used color coding to distinguish between late and left early. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do an attendance one more time. We're going to go ahead and click take attendance. I'm going to assume that this is now, let's say, okay, we'll leave it today. Well, you know what? Why don't we just do it for the current time? And let's assume that Mary's student, let's say Andrew was absent today. And we hit submit attendance. Attendance has been taken. I'm going to go back to the attendance record just so you can kind of see how it keeps track of things here and some of the information you get here. Okay, so here's Andrew's absence for October 12th. So the points that you see over here, out of 100, remember when we set this particular class up, we had a grading center column that was based on 100 points. It's aggregating each number of attendances into that 100. So because I've taken attendance 3 times, 3 presents is 100. So each one is divided up equally at approximately 33.33%. Now over here you see a crazy number, 83.33. That's because I'm going to go into settings over here. Over here, a late or a left early is only worth half of the points. It's a little bit more complicated. I can't really get into it in this particular session. It would take a little bit too much time. So another quick thing I wanted to show you in the attendance record, or 2 things actually. This here is just a kind of a tally. It's just showing you that you've taken attendance a total of 3 times, and this shows how many absences out of it. You can also click on that column header, and it'll show you the percent of times that they've attended the class. Another kind of cool feature here is if you wanted to bring this data into an Excel spreadsheet and manipulate it in some way, you can click on this button right here. Down here, you see I'm using Chrome, so it creates a CSV file. and if you click on it, it opens up in Excel. And for each column header, it gives you the time and date stamp of the attendance and the status for each individual student, and brings over those columns. And you can, manipulate this any way you see fit in Excel if that is useful to you. Let me just double check. I think that is all the information that I had to get on the getting started session. Yes, and I'm going to try to click on this button so that I can see if there's any comments here. Okay, I am back to the comments screen, and so that was the quick and dirty getting through the initial configuration, taking attendance, and then the special case of meeting a student more than once in a day. And I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm looking at the chat screen. You're very welcome, Maureen. Does everyone feel that comfortable that that was enough information to get started in taking attendance? Excellent. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Excellent, Ruth. Thank you. Appreciate that. Say hi to my friend Pat Schmall. All right, everybody. I think that I'm going to end this session. It looks like all your questions have been answered. I appreciate you spending time with me today, and take care. Be well. Yes, I heard that about Pat. He's a great guy, though. Everybody have a good day. Thank you.